Welcome to the I'll Discuss Anything interviews. I'm Patrick. I actually don't know. Is it Kazerad?
Yeah.
Okay, so I am pronouncing that right. This is Kazerad of PREQUEL fame, and I don't know, did you do anything else? Do you have any other webcomics that you've done so far?
Nothing that great.
Okay. That great, I suppose, is just, up to your own interpretation.
Yeah, I used to do game design contests as a main thing.
Oh, really? So,
Yeah.
we were trying to make a game in 3 days or something.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Game jams. Got it.
More of the 1 month long TIG source things.
Well, were you making Flash games then too?
That was more like the Game Maker era.
Really?
Slowly moving into Flash.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, some people still make stuff in Game Maker. I mean, you can't.
Get updated. Better
yeah,
than
it's not
Flash.
that bad. Game Maker 2 is not that bad, actually. Well, I apologize for the impromptu-ness of this interview.
It's cool.
I mean, for you, it's what, 12:30?
2:24 a.m.
Okay, so you're actually later than me. It's 1:24 here.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've actually introduced myself to you. I don't know if I have at all, actually, through our entire everything we've said.
Cool. I've talked to lots of strangers.
That's not a thing you should do. Your parents should have taught you against that. But I'm Patrick. I'm sure you'd rather go by your alias, since you obviously have your thing. Yeah.
Now more people call me that than my real name by now.
Really? That's actually fascinating. Actually, you know what? No, it's not. Because the amount of people that I'm sure that read your webcomic, it's probably tons of people call you by your name, and it's just in text.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start off with something simple then. I mean, the plan here is to interview for give or take an hour or so, and just talk about your process and that type of thing. But
and then like I said, if you run out of questions or something, or you want to get more questions, you can just like Frankenstein that together later. I'm not.
Oh yeah, I can always. I can Frankenstein anything together. That'll just be the plan. But let's start off with something basic.
Do go on.
When did you start drawing?
As a child, just not well.
Oh yeah. When did you start drawing professionally?
I guess professionally it would be after PREQUEL started. Before that, well, actually I guess that's kind of vague, because before that I did spec work sometimes, along with contests.
Just in video games, that type of thing?
Games are a little bit of writing.
So PREQUEL was your first webcomic?
First one that really took off when I was in high school. I think I tried a few times, because that was an era when you see Rat Flail t-shirts at school. There's Mega Tokyo bookmarks at the library.
See,
for younger readers, a library is like a bookstore.
See, that's another thing. I don't know how old you are.
I'm 31.
You're 31. Okay, so you're just a little bit older than me. You're like 3 years. You're 3 years older than me.
Tokyo bookmarks.
No, I do. I do remember that. I'm 28, and I usually just say I'm 30 at this point. Honestly, let's just just get it over with.
Yeah, it's tail end of the Mega Tokyo bookmarks there.
Yeah, pretty much. Though I do love Mega Tokyo, so I can't. I don't know. I read way too much manga as a child, probably more than novels.
Yeah.
I was never big into reading, just comics mostly for me. So I guess we'll go to the next question, which kind of leads from the last question. Have you ever worked any other jobs?
Like art jobs or jobs in general?
Well, I mean, that honestly just depends on how you'd like to answer the question. You could just go into what did you do in high school, or if you want to just be completely professional about it, like only jobs you've done for art, that type of thing, you can answer it that way too.
I mean, I think everyone's had some generic jobs, but
yeah. I mean, okay, well, here's the big one. Well, how old were you when you worked at GameStop?
I've never done GameStop.
Really? You never worked at GameStop?
I've never worked at GameStop. I know, everyone does. But...
Yeah, everyone does. I worked at GameStop when I was 16.
No, I was a librarian for a while. For the younger readers, that's the bookstore people don't go to. Groundskeeper, not gardener. It's like a level below gardener.
A level below gardener.
Yeah.
Wow. What does that mean?
I just water the plants.
Oh, okay, I was about to say, what does that mean that you do? Actually, I can't think. It's like all that makes me think is like there's the dirt, there's the worms under the dirt, and then there's you. You know, a little bit of a Dragon Ball Z abridged reference, I guess.
But yeah, art-wise, most of what I did until prequel was contest and spec work.
So you didn't put anything out professionally before prequel, right? That's pretty much it.
It depends on your definition of professional.
Okay.
I did some bigger contests and stuff with teams.
Okay. You know, I have to ask, I guess.
I guess
because
it's also some work for clients, but you know, it's just like small generic stuff.
Yeah, I did a lot of. Well, I still do a lot of contracting work. I have a 9 to 5, but I'd still do a lot of contracting work. I live in Mississippi, so you know any money is money here.
Yeah.
So I suppose I'll move on to the next question. Exactly how much have you played Oblivion?
Not as much as some people have.
I'm sure, but it must be quite a bit for your knowledge of the systems, the everything.
Yeah, it probably was an unhealthy amount, but yeah.
You think we're talking 1,000 hours into Oblivion?
I'm not sure, but I do know the numbers on Steam got reset at some point,
Oh.
so it's not accurate.
How much do you have now?
Not sure. I'd have to.
You know what? That's actually a good question. Are you still playing Oblivion to this day?
Usually now only if I need to look something up for the comic.
It's just a reference material.
I think I got more into it when it started becoming a reference thing.
Really? You just wanted to delve deep into things and see what you could find that might actually inspire you?
It's more fun to approach it like a researcher, yeah.
Yeah, I actually don't disagree with that. I'm a creator myself, but you know that, or at least a story writer myself, so I can very much understand that. I can very much understand that delving into things that you want to research for your own work, man, that can be a never-ending hole sometimes. So I guess I'll ask you something that we asked earlier in our discourse on Discord. I was asking you were obviously inspired by Homestuck.
Well, I'd say more Problem Sleuth. Actually, it goes back a little further. I was probably one of the first people to do a story like that online, like the sort of take commands interactive thing with pictures.
Really?
Yeah, probably around 15 years ago now. I mean, it was nothing big. It was like on a forum, but I had some experience with it going into things.
You know, 15 years ago would be 2005.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit ago for doing that type of comic.
But I mean, like, you know, the internet's been around a while.
I mean, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But I'm trying to think that type of comic didn't get big until about 2012.
I think Andrew Hussey improved the system a little by, I guess, standardizing graphic reuse. One of the big things that Homestuck did, or I guess Problem Sleuth did too, was that it sort of made like the copy-paste style into an aesthetic.
Yeah.
Because before then, like, copy and paste was mostly associated with sprite comics.
Did you do any of those? Did you do sprite comics?
Surprisingly, no. I don't think I've ever done a sprite comic, but I do a lot of spriting.
Yeah, at this point, I'm sure I've seen your... You know, you go backwards in your comic a lot and update things at, you know, earlier points or add games to points to where there wasn't a game there.
No, I don't think I've actually ever done that.
Really?
I mean, that's... I have things not quite in chronological order sometimes. Like, I know it wasn't till 2014 or 2015 I released the Proceed minigame.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, I mean, the minigames are just posted when they're done. Which actually led to a not quite 2-year hiatus once for Infiltrate.
Yes. I'm actually
I don't know if
familiar.
You were there for that.
I was there for that.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. Don't worry. I assumed you had a lot going on, if nothing else. Well, I apologize for thinking that you went back and changed things. It must just
No,
be my recollection of reading it originally, and then after the hiatus, rereading everything, and then saying, "Wait, there wasn't a game here before. There wasn't something here before. You know, this text has changed or something like that."
I think I've made 2 text changes, like retroactively, other than grammar fixes. I've done a couple grammar fixes.
I mean, well, I was thinking about this actually yesterday, I suppose, because I was trying to think of things to discuss during this. But I was thinking, prequel still hasn't gone very far, has it?
No, I think I've seen people joke it's covered like what 5 days in story.
I mean, it's not. Sure. I mean, but you have this writing style that is so in depth that it becomes, the minutes can become hours in your story.
Yeah, thanks.
Well,
No, I do.
I personally, as a reader and as a fan, enjoy that. It doesn't bother me. And honestly, my stories are very similar. So, I have the same thing where I'm like, I feel like sometimes I gotta speed things up, but I love it. I love the fine details.
No, I really like that kind of thing too. I know it aggravates some people to death, but it's so much fun.
Oh yeah, I love it. Was that your original intention when setting out with prequel? Did you think, what is it, 3 years from now I'm going to be 5 days into the story?
Oh god, no! I thought everything would go a lot faster. I
Really?
mean, not that I wanted to make the story go faster. I just usually underestimate the difficulty of things.
Yeah, I could understand that.
Yeah,
I mean, with a lot of the stuff that you do.
From the constant hiatuses.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're...
Like, my current thing is, like, making a level of a game every day. I had a backlog, then I got sick, and now I'm just, like, frantically trying to finish one every day.
You put so much into your comic. Like, there's video games in your comic. I mean, that's above and beyond. You must have, like, some actual, like, true down-to-earth love for prequel to be able to keep up with that over how long you've been doing it.
It's complicated. It's gonna answer the question you didn't ask about how I started the comic.
Absolutely.
Because give some context to what you're saying there.
Of course.
Usually it's the generic first question. So
well, I'd love to hear it. So please.
Well, like I said, in high school I was a little into the idea of starting a webcomic. But I realized kind of quickly I don't enjoy drawing all that much.
Really?
Yeah, I'm more interested in the human interaction aspect of things, like, how a story affects people, what makes someone like it or dislike it.
The role-playing aspect, I see.
Yeah, there you go. So in college I did a BA in research psychology and then behavioral economics, which are two of the exact same thing, but from two perspectives. It's complicated.
More or less. I've got a degree in IT. I do the computer.
But I was actually going to go down the PhD path with that, but I got drunk and started a webcomic.
You got drunk and started your webcomic?
Yes, I didn't actually have any plan when posting the first panel of Prequel.
I see.
But I ran with that, and well, I was approaching it more like a scientist, though.
Well, you said you did this in 2005, right?
No, it was actually a long time ago. I did something kind of like this.
Okay, so well, I mean, I said 2005. That's 15 years ago.
15 years ago was like my first bad attempt at
so how many times
story.
did you try to start Prequel?
Once. I mean, Prequel didn't really. There wasn't a lot of planning in Prequel. I think I've probably shared it with people before. There was exactly 2 sketches that happened before I said, yeah, these character designs are fine, and ran with it.
Oh man,
But anyway,
that's way too close to my own heart. You just don't go there. It's for me drawing. That's exactly me. No, these are fine. I'll just use these. I'll just do that.
No, God, a lot of the previous ideas never took out because I'd have like a sketchbook full of designs that didn't feel right.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm looking at Prequel's first pages here, just while we talk, just to refresh my mind. And I mean, we've got the first panel of Katia just standing there on a dock and a ship leaves behind her.
Yeah.
Already, like, immediately, people would notice, this is animated. Did you always think you were going to do an animated comic?
Not necessarily. I mean, like I said, I got into this kind of like abruptly without much planning. It was posted initially on the MS Paint Adventures forums.
Of course. I was going to say it's probably
there was a whole bunch of these really good and creative things there, and then it all got wiped when they accidentally deleted the forums, didn't have backup.
Kill 6 Billion Demons started there too.
Yes, I remember it too.
Yeah, isn't that fascinating? To see how far that Abaddon has come, honestly.
No, Abaddon is crazy. You did an interview with him, right?
Well, I'm going to do an interview with him.
Okay.
You were actually first up because it was going to be in a couple of days, but but me and you kind of decided to do this impromptu. So, I don't know. I guess you're first.
Yeah. But so since I basically accidentally became a webcomic author at that point, I decided I was just going to run with it, and since I was more interested in the human interaction aspects of art and than like the actual drawing stuff, I mostly decided I was going to use it to experiment with things. Really? I think I've seen people describe it as a sandbox for me.
That's actually not that surprising, taking into account the, obviously, like, what command do you want to put in, that type of thing, for your comics. Yeah. It was always intended to be that way then. Did you wake up the next morning from your drunken stupor and then realize what you had done?
I pretty much just ran with it.
Was it an immediate success, at least? Like, people just obviously wanted to be part of it.
Well, the Forum Adventure subforum on the MSPA forums, that had forum in it so many times, but it had a lot of people who are interested in that sort of content, and because I had experience with that, like, way long ago, before Homestuck and probably even MS Paint Adventures was a thing.
Oh, yeah.
I was able to avoid a lot of, like, the big pitfalls that kind of kill those.
So you never got into, let's see, the big starting point for Harry Bogosian, the person that I interviewed before this. He was saying that he got a lot of art and critique off of 4chan and that type of thing, and your comic is very famous on 4chan, obviously, for several different boards.
Yeah,
I mean, TG Co, of course, there's several of them, but you never started out doing.
No, I only really got into following a lot of internet places after I started the comic, because, like, once I had this thing going, I wanted to see, like, how it was going over, how my decisions were going over, and you can see the comments people leave on your own site, but if you want to find people speaking their mind, you have to go to other places. 4chan's pretty cool. I think I like them.
There's no lack of people speaking their minds on the internet, obviously. We went over this.
You kind of have to hunt them out, though.
Of course. We went over
some
this.
Some people don't look kindly upon that. They're like, oh god, you're vanity searching. But I think it's important.
Well, it's not that. As a creator, you obviously want to know, what can I do better? I want to improve. Myself, I do that all the time. I'm always looking for comments on my YouTube videos just to see what I could do a little bit better.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's I think something that sets me apart and sometimes really annoys people, depending on the community, is that I do try to drop into the conversations.
Of course. I mean, well,
it's fun. Some people don't like it. It's
Well, if there's one thing that I've noticed from talking to you for the short amount of time that we did talk on Discord before this, it was that you did not like direct confrontation, and you did not like people who you felt nervous talking to you.
I wouldn't say I feel nervous. It's more like I'm trying to think of the good word for it.
Well, the internet gives a great anonymity to that, to where it's kind of like just whoever, anyone, You said if I was some big interviewer, you would probably feel a lot worse about doing this.
It's not like nervousness, though. It's more like I don't respect popular people that much. I like normal people. I like, everyone is very interesting.
Everyone.
popular people tend to think that they're more interesting, but I don't think we are.
I suppose that's true. I've never really thought about it that way, but that might just be more of me thinking in the terms of, well, I mean, I have to put this in terms of, obviously, I'm speaking to Kazerad, person who wrote Prequel. So my immediate thought is, well, if he doesn't think that he's that important, then obviously I'm not that important. And then vice versa, and then things become a lot more calming. So I can kind of just talk any way that I want to. It actually makes the whole situation a lot better. So I think I like your philosophy.
Oh, thanks.
Let's see. Why don't we go on to another question, since I think we've kind of been meandering for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, go nuts. I don't care.
Well, obviously we talked about kind of influences. You said, you were on MS Paint Adventures, that type of thing. Do you have any, like, particular influences besides home? I think people would say you were inspired by Homestuck, but I would say it was more that you grew up adjacent to Homestuck.
I wouldn't say I grew up with it. I mean, by the time Homestuck started, I was already in college.
That's true, I was too. I suppose that was the wrong term. I mean, the comic that you made grew up next to Homestuck.
That's a good term for it, I think.
Yeah.
I guess I'd say I actually draw more inspiration from probably some of the Dead Form adventures. There was there's this one that I really liked. I don't remember its name anymore. It's gone from the internet, no trace. It was about, like, a shark solving puzzles in a cave.
Wow.
Don't even remember the author.
That's just gonna be comment fodder right there. Somebody's gonna say the name for you.
No, someone's gonna come say the name.
Somebody's got that whole thing saved to their computer. There's no way.
Oh, they better.
I would actually... I don't know what you're talking about, but a shark solving puzzles actually sounds super interesting, and I'd love to hear what that is.
I mean, it never went anywhere, but it was a good start.
So, mainly other people's work was your main inspiration. You just saw other people doing work around you.
But that applies to everyone.
I'm sure. Do you have any more mainstream influences that you'd say that you have? Like, I don't know, things that I had written down for Harry, I suppose, since we're just going by doing this impromptu. I had Akira, Evangelion, and Giger. He was inspired by all of them.
I actually heard that, but
you heard? Oh, did you listen to the interview?
Parts that I tried to skim it.
I apologize.
No, it's cool.
But obviously, he's inspired by those creators. Do you have anything that you would say besides, I don't know, the guy who owns Bethesda?
I would... Not trying to seem like the most indie person ever, but not that into most mainstream media. I'm not quite sure where to take that. But,
making yourself kind of sound like Death Grips there.
Death Grips?
Sorry. Band from really indie band. The lead singer got interviewed and said that he doesn't really take inspiration from things outside, and says that he takes more inspiration from inside, and then of course he likes the greats, Jimi Hendrix, that type of thing, but other than that, it kind of just all blends together for him. So most of your inspiration was probably just being in the spaces that you were, and then trying to adapt to those spaces.
I think it would be more accurate to say that I was largely inspired by things that are not media.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
I mean, I was doing this coming off a psychology degree, and that probably shows in the comic.
Yeah, you were more inspired by the fact that you wanted to see how this comic would interact with people.
Yeah, not only that, just like people in general. I mean,
it sounds more like you should have gone into sociology.
I don't know.
So, do you...
I'm trying to think of a good way to put it. I like research psychology. I like the, I did a study once on, like, the effect of paragraph spacing on reading comprehension. That's my jam.
Wow. That's some deep shit, man. That is...
And little things like that,
enjoy. That's all the way down the rabbit hole with that type of thing. I almost got a degree in psychology. Ended up just being better with computers.
That's completely understandable.
Yeah. Do you script your comics at all, or is it mostly just other people's inputs?
Can you explain what you mean by that?
Well, I suppose my meaning behind it would be, do you have a document or, anything anywhere where you have story beats laid out that are, this is what you want to see?
Sometimes I'll think of a really good line for like years in the future. I'll write it down. I'll usually lose the document. Probably miss some really good lines. But no, like I try not to plan it out too much so I can still change direction if necessary.
So the comic's almost completely fluid then.
A little I do. So I don't write myself into a corner. I always know like the path to the end. I have ends in mind, but they might change.
Of course. I suppose the big thing on everybody's mind would be the Kavach thing.
Yeah.
I am sure that everybody wants to know that. I won't ask you for respect.
The best part about that, though, is that the game is old enough now that the comic gets people into it, and they get to experience that.
Of course, but I don't want to be that guy who gets to interview you and then be like, "Oh, is the Kavach thing gonna happen?"
Don't spoil it for your readers. They're probably too young to remember Oblivion. You gotta make me feel old. Should make you feel old too.
That's awful. Well, when I had Harry on last week, he spoiled the hell out of his comic. It was, and I didn't even ask him to. I just asked him one thing, like, how does magic work in your comic? And he was like, you know what? Let me just give you the rundown. And I was like, man, if your readers hear this, they're either going to be very happy or very upset.
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Do you decide on, as far as like paneling goes? Do you write? Well, not write. I suppose. Do you sketch these out originally on paper or anything, or is this all MS Paint for you?
Actually, I haven't used MS Paint in ages for anything.
I
haven't used it since the beginning of this. I mean, I didn't use it at the beginning. I use a obscure Japanese program for spriting called Graphic Scale. It's not good for what I do, but I use it for spriting, so I got used to it. Now I just kind of stick with it.
Well, I'm looking at the first page versus, the most recent page. And I feel like the quality of the line work has increased dramatically. But I don't know if that was from a software change or not.
No, it's actually the same software.
Is it?
I do my lines in a weird way. I don't actually use pressure sensitivity for the comic.
Really?
Yeah, I do them thick and shave them down with an eraser.
Oh, that actually explains a lot of the edges. I figured that it was more of I honestly figured you compressed it. That was what I expected.
I don't have much experience with large-scale raster art. Before Prequel, my main thing was both spriting and vector art.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part, I'm used to either lines being so small that their thickness isn't really an issue, or having manual control over the taper.
So assuming you're drawing out a panel, then you're drawing this at what, 1920 by 1080 or 4K, and then you just go over it with an eraser afterwards?
Oh god, no, it's drawn at 600 pixels by 450. I just worked at the normal resolution.
And then you just pick it up from there, if it needs to be bigger?
I mean, it doesn't really need to be bigger.
Yeah, I'm looking at these, and I've never really thought about the actual size of these as far as resolution. These are just direct. So these are just the direct resolution.
Destination resolution. A lot of spriting, like, it doesn't look quite as good if you do it at a larger resolution and scale it down. You want control over every pixel.
Oh, so, yeah, for sure.
That's something that only a sprite work person's going to say, but
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
MS Paint is still one of the best things for sprite work if you're just starting out too.
No, I mean MS Paint is. I will stand by graphic scale, but
But MS Paint's
your
just not
Japanese program.
just garbage for you.
It's I wouldn't say garbage. It doesn't have all the necessary tools.
Oh, it doesn't have tools at all. Almost, it almost has no tools. I was just
mean,
saying
graphic scale isn't terribly complicated. I like it because everything is sort of out there, but it has all the tools sprite work needs.
I was just saying for editing sprite work, more or less, you could still use MS Paint. I'm just surprised
even
that.
I
wouldn't
would
do it
discourage
myself.
people from using MS Paint because if nothing else, you want layers.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I only draw in Photoshop. And I mean, you've seen my avatar.
Yeah.
It's Photoshop. I've never used anything else so far, really.
No, you're not missing much. I mean,
I'm sure I'm not. Do you use any equipment, like physical equipment, for doing your stuff, or do you do everything with just a mouse?
Wacom Graphire 3. That thing is probably like 15 years old now.
Wow.
I don't know when the
a really old tablet.
Well, it's like tablet tech hasn't increased a ton.
That's true.
I guess they're like sticking touchpads into the bamboos now, but
no, me and Harry were talking about that last week. We were saying that he uses a Wacom too, and I kept calling it Wacom because I don't know why. I guess because I'm from the South. But I have an XP pin right next to me, like I don't know, like a foot away from me right now. And I've got to say, I'd still prefer a Wacom tablet any day of the week.
Well, they apparently last a long time. Though, I don't know, everyone else I know who had a Graphire 3 has had it die on them by now.
Really? And yours is what, 15 years old?
Yeah, this thing has not failed me yet.
I'd stick with it then. I think it might be magical. Well, let's ask about your specific process when it comes to making webcomics, I guess. Yours is all... I want to say yours is all user input, though. But it obviously can't all be that, right? You've got... Do you draw anything out beforehand, before anybody puts anything in, or do you just take, a week to wait for responses and then say, all right, we'll just do this?
Usually the latter. I don't want to, write myself... I don't want to commit myself to something in case a way better idea comes up.
I can definitely understand that. So most of your stuff is almost entirely written by... Well, not written, I suppose. But most of the ideas you let the community come up with. That's very, very... I suppose nice, for lack of a better word. As far as for being a writer, as far as for being a reader, I'm sure everybody enjoys that all around.
I think so. There's of course, some people want more control. There's this picture, I think someone on 4chan drew it, of it's like how people think prequel works, and it just shows like a train that looks like Katia. And then it's how prequel actually works, and it shows Katia driving a car and everyone behind her shouting things.
Yeah.
But one of the things I learned from the first time I did this sort of thing, like an interactive story on a forum, was that you can't give people complete control, or the main character will end up a womanizing kleptomaniac with a robot arm.
Yeah, it becomes problem sleuth, kind of, at that point.
I mean, it's always a womanizing kleptomaniac with a robot arm.
Yeah.
There's actually other comics that have tried this, and the robot arm is always there.
Is it really?
Yes.
That's fascinating. Apparently we have some human fascination with post-humanism, obviously.
I think it's more just the authors have to find some way to continue things after all the players unanimously want to touch the bandsaw.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Did you, since you started out, we talked about MS Paint Adventures a little bit earlier. Did Homestuck have any effect on your comic in particular?
I think the biggest thing Homestuck did, I guess to a lesser extent Problem Sleuth, but Homestuck really established the idea of style inconsistency as a style.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, Cadio's completely different depending how much you zoom in on her.
I've never thought
even
about
just
that.
like in general. It's the style in like anatomy details switch so rapidly that I think it kind of works.
I don't know. I've always seen Katoya being pretty much on model all the time. She seems pretty on model to me, but I'm not.
I mean, like, 'cause enough stuff changes, I think, that you come to simplify what you view as the model.
Oh yeah, that's
Like,
for sure.
You know,
She's
she
got
has
different clothes.
she has
that
two
depend-
big yellow eyes, and they're
Yes.
on a different yellowish head. But as long as those are there, it kind of looks like her. If my art was more consistent, then it would show more when I deviate from it.
You're just giving people. You're just giving people who do Rule 34 like a way. You're just writing them a blank check, man.
I prefer to think of it as just very simplifying really simplifying what makes the character look like the character.
Well, I hate to say it, but I've definitely seen some people overdraw Katia to the point to where it was kind of like, all right, but this doesn't even remind me in any way whatsoever of prequel. At this point,
Nobody
this
captures
is just...
the slouch. Nobody captures the slouch in their fan art.
Yeah, I actually I've noticed that. She doesn't stand up straight or sit up straight. She doesn't anything straight, which I now realize might be a pun on her sexuality.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna go for that.
Well, as a non-straight man myself, it had to come up eventually.
Yeah, no.
So what do you think is in the future for prequel?
I'd like to update faster, but I've been saying that since 2015, I think.
I'm sure. I mean, you've got one of those really slow update schedules that everybody kind of freaks out whenever you release a panel.
I would barely call it a schedule.
Yeah, I suppose you could put it that way too. But
I think I have like some kind of Stockholm syndrome. People act like it's Christmas when I release an update and thank me, and I'm like, I'm literally doing my job. You don't have to say thanks.
I don't know. Is it technically your job? Do you work another job?
No, actually, I support myself off the comic.
Really? You support yourself completely off of prequel?
Yes, I do.
Well, man, 100% congratulations to you for that.
Thanks.
That is one of those things that every creator's, aspires to do.
I think it's easier than a lot of them give it credit for.
I'm sure, but I'm not nearly as good at webcomics as you are. I probably couldn't do it.
I try to sort of catalog what I do so others can imitate it if they want. Have you seen my merchandise retrospective?
I've seen your merchandise. Is that any, is that any
the
consolation?
retrospective real quick.
The retrospective for your merchandise?
Yeah. Like, I draw and write as a job, but I'm sort of an essayist for fun.
No,
It's the
I don't
opposite
blame
of
you on
when you're in
that. That's
school.
basically the thing that I parody on my website.
Yeah, but no, this was something I wrote back after I did the first merchandise run.
Wow.
Kind of details on how I did everything, how well it worked.
Why? Why the quill weave nudity? Why the
There's lots
immediate
of nudity if you go further.
Yeah, why the immediate quill weave? Why multiple more nudity? I'm not against this. I'm totally in support of it, but at the same
to
time.
quote myself when I drew it, apparently, let's make all the illustrations nonsensically and gratuitously naked to keep you reading out of morbid curiosity.
Yeah, it wasn't even.
It's working.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got me
I'm sorry, I
scrolling.
should have warned you. And there's a text only, or there's audio only, I think. So everyone listening is going to be confused.
No, that's okay. It's not actually audio only. This will be a video on YouTube, so I can just put this up on the screen. It's all censored.
No, show. Yeah, is that still YouTube safe?
Yeah, I have no idea. My entire channel is demonetized.
Really? What did you say?
You just listen to the podcast sometime.
Okay, no, that's fair.
It's I don't appreciate censoring, and I don't censor myself because I just don't think that it's the way to make art or anything in particular.
I can't imagine what it's like trying to avoid using a fuck word or something.
Yeah, I don't avoid it in the least. I will never bleep myself. I will never censor myself. I'm just not that type of person.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't. Thankfully, I don't have any radical political opinions, or YouTube might actually delete me. But I have to ask, for these censored nudity things, did you actually just draw these out completely nude and then censor them through Photoshop?
I think kind of.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I figured.
Quill doesn't look that explicit naked.
What do you mean? She's naked. Of course she's got to look explicit.
I had like a whole side story about Argonian nudity, I think.
Well, actually, that's true. Argonians don't have nipples, right?
As far as I can tell, lore-wise, and there is some weird, explicit old lore, like from back in the Morrowind era.
Well,
No, there's like a...
You're gonna make some people very upset with this. We're both gonna make somebody very upset with this. Somebody wants Argonians to have
into,
nipples.
like, the old lore stuff for the comic. It's, somewhere out there was, like, someone that worked on Morrowind. Someone asked her a question about Khajiit dicks, and she had, like, this very in-depth answer. Developers used to be very open.
You know what? I mean, we're on it, I guess, so far. So I'm sure they'll ask a question that I'm sure that your audience will ask at some point, because we both know how humans are. Has Katia had sex with other Khajiit in the past?
No.
I didn't figure so.
Yeah, no, she did not really grow up around any others.
Well, that's another thing.
Well, I mean her parents, but yeah.
Well, I mean, that's an entirely different type of webcomic that we're talking about now. And maybe, God bless you, you'll do it in the future, but I don't see that being where Prequel's going. I just have to say. You know what? I'm still...
Her parents? Or...
Yeah, well, yeah, that's pretty much what I'm talking about.
That's weird now.
Well, I told you I don't censor myself.
Okay, no, it's cool.
It's not that. I'm sorry, I'm still scrolling through the amount of nudity that you put in this one post. I'm still just trying to take in every bit of artwork, but that's ludicrous, man. I can't believe you did that.
All the nudity or all the writing?
Both of them. I suppose you said you have an interest in essayists and being an essayist, so I suppose I can't be surprised at that part. That the nudity
more
part,
like a hobbyist essayist.
Well, not a single bit of Katia nude either. I've noticed.
No, yeah.
You couldn't give that away to your fans, of course. I
think that's like a kind of running joke at this point.
Well, the internet would have a field day,
I just don't give them what they want. Ever.
That's basically... Well, that was why I'm sure you renamed this later instead of having it be the original name of the comic, but making a cat cry the adventure.
That was actually someone else described as that, so I just kept it there.
It's not a bad descriptor. I mean, it's happened, 3 times in the comic so far? It might as well be exactly what
Probably more than that, but no, like, to go back to the earlier thing, the main reason I avoid, like, Katia nudity compared to some of the other characters, just because I don't think it quite thematically fits with her arc.
I'd agree with that. I think that there's some point where you have to have artistic integrity, and quill weave nudity is not about there. And then acetyl nudity, that's probably that can kind of
would absolutely pose in a calendar for the Empire.
Of course, I mean, so would I, though. I can't blame him for that.
No.
How do you come up with your story ideas as far as for prequel? Did you... There were several situations that you found yourself in the comic so far where you introduce new characters, that type of thing. Do you have some sort of brainstorming session that you do?
Nothing that organized, really.
Do you just come up with it off the top of your head as you're making it, then?
I'd say more that I do what needs to be done.
Wow.
I don't have that much... I mean, I'm sorry that's a vague answer.
No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I know what you mean. It's not that, it's just that prequel's very vast. And thus, from its vastness, you would assume that you have some sort of, having this thing marked out in some way, maybe a graph somewhere.
I reread it regularly to make sure I'm not contradicting myself.
I can understand that. Harry and I were talking about that in our last interview. He said he also rereads his webcomics, so I would imagine that's actually probably, that's pretty regular for most people. Yeah. God knows that whenever I'm writing a story, I reread my thing constantly. There's no way.
Yeah, I can't imagine not doing it.
Yeah, I honestly can't either. Do you have plans for another comic after Prequel?
Honestly, I'll probably lean more toward game design.
Really? So,
yeah,
But this is your livelihood right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like I said, I approach this more like a scientist than a writer. I think some people, they put a big focus on building their name, getting it out there. I put more focus on learning the effective ways to do things.
I can understand that.
I still do contests and stuff under aliases usually to make sure I can do cold starts.
Yeah. Is it working out so far?
Oh, yeah, I do pretty good.
That's respectable. You're going to go into game design, though.
I don't know about go into. I'll probably still make stuff like online for free, but I want to lean more toward interactivity. I think the most fun I've had working on Prequel was actually making the Proceed minigame.
Really?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't probably describe yourself at your core as like a writer then. It's not the going forward in the story that entices you as much as creating the object.
I don't know. I mean, I still would say I'm mostly a scientist in this regard. I like trying to figure out what works more than the creation itself.
So you don't have any plans to make a game, though?
Oh, I got like some design documents I'll probably finish up on sometime.
Well, if you end up going into game design after Prequel, I hope you don't end up going by an alias.
I'm sure I'll not only go by an alias. I don't know. I'll probably run a few.
What are your So if you're gonna go into game design after after
Prequel. I go into game design makes it sound like I'm going to start up a normal company. I'll probably
I suppose that's true.
I'll probably just keep. I like the webcomic model of publishing stuff online. Just sort of like free and updating gradually.
Well, man, you were out of luck. Flash just died.
Well, but there is that mess of HTML5.
Oh, that's
JavaScript running different on every goddamn browser.
I don't want to hear you talk about that. That's awful. That's like sinful to my ears. I'm already, as an IT person, I'm well aware of what you're talking about. I think your microphone went out. And I think my wife just fell out of her chair.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Don't worry.
Sorry, there's a...
It's fine.
A wire running on the floor. If I step on it, unplugs.
Like I said, I can edit this. It's no problem. I don't know if you heard me, but it sounded like my wife just fell out of her chair. I have no idea what just happened in there. But
why don't you go check on her?
Hold on. Just a cat, apparently. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. All right. So I had a question that I asked in my last interview that I found rather interesting. That
go nuts.
Webcomics are to comics as streaming is to television. Do you agree?
Ooh, that's an interesting one.
See, that's why I can't not ask that to a webcomic artist.
I think so. I mean, streamers are pretty unprofessional. They don't plan it out. They just kind of delve in, and a lot of times you respect them for the personality, even in the flaws it manifests. So I think that is a pretty good parallel.
That's actually a really good take on that. I didn't even think about that, because in the question, I don't know if they were asking about streamers, because I took it to mean like Netflix.
Oh, no,
like streaming television.
I hadn't thought that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that at all.
I was thinking like game streamers and stuff, art streamers, that kind of thing.
Well, I would agree with you on your point. I was just more I guess I was just more taken aback that there could be a different way to read that. I wonder if that was what they actually meant now. Now I feel like an idiot, going and listening back to my previous interview. Let me see. What else do we have here? What do you think?
Let's be honest. Streaming, like the Netflix kind of streaming, is just TV at this point.
It actually
there's even
is.
a million channels.
It's I think South Park made fun of that recently. Their newest season.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. What do you think that's in the future for webcomics?
I'm not a good judge on this, I think. I know there's some places that a lot of webcomics are uploaded to specialist webcomic sites now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know their names. I'm that old.
Tapas is the only one I know of.
Yeah. Okay, that's familiar.
Yeah.
That's familiar. But I think a lot of people read on those. I don't know if like the website type stuff like I write is targeted at old people like me.
Yeah. I don't know. The likelihood is, judging from the fact that I am also around your age, I suppose that would have to be true from our small test sample we have here.
Yeah, I don't think I'm in a good position to speak on the future without like knowing younger people and asking them about it.
Well, do you think that webcomics will continue to congregate like they have on websites like that, where they just kind of all go under one publisher?
I'm actually expecting something of a split. I think, stuff I do, it's kind of in the middle between webcomics and games.
That's definitely true. You've got plenty of gameplay in your comic.
Like, even beyond the gameplay, I do a lot of stuff like the nightmare sequences where I need more control over the site.
Yeah, and I'm now remembering that one sequence that you did where you could just scroll down for literally forever.
Yeah. But I expect there'll be more of a split between webcomic purists who really like the comic traditional format. They'll probably congregate more around sites like Tapas.
Well, I mean, definitely yours is not the traditional comic format.
Yeah, I expect people like me are probably going to gravitate toward game type things in general, even if it's online. I mean, there are a lot of game devs who focus on online stuff. I think her name's Nikki. I think their name's Nikki Case. Does some really good. Yeah, Nikki Case does some really good, basically game essays. Here, I'm going to link her thing to you.
Okay, I'd love to see it.
Highly recommend Adventures with Anxiety. We Become What We Behold.
Oh, do you have anxiety?
I don't, but I know a lot of people who do, and it's a very well presented thing.
Oh, well, I can definitely say I do. My anxiety medication is right next to me.
Yeah, you'll probably appreciate it, I think.
Well, I'd love to see it. Do you have any particular famous webcomics that you're a fan of? Since we're talking about things that you're into, as is.
Things that I'm into. I don't read as many webcomics as I used to. My rule is if I forget to check something, then that's okay. I'm just not checking it then.
Yeah, obviously it's not that high on your...
I still keep up with Gunner Creek Court.
Do you?
Yeah. I don't know if I like it, but I read it.
Okay.
It's complicated. I like some of the things it does.
Oh man, I feel like that's me with several webcomics. I
really like the comic Freefall.
Really? I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Here, I'm gonna link that to you too.
Okay.
It's
love to read that.
It's hard sci-fi that's been going since I was in second grade.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. But it deals with interesting topics in a newspaper comic format, basically.
Oh, that actually does kind of sound interesting. I've been going...
Yeah, no, it's a very interesting read. If you're looking for people to interview, I'd love to see an interview with this dude.
Oh, if I can get him. I don't know if you follow him on Twitter or anything, but it would probably take your convincing.
No, I don't even know if he has social media.
Yeah, I was gonna say it'll probably take your gravitational
I've emailed
pull.
him before. He understands. Oh God, making him sound like a really old person saying he understands email. This is someone who knows their way around tech.
Okay. Well, at
Yeah,
least he understands a computer.
yeah. No, he actually. The comic predicted cloud computing and tablets before they were a thing.
Wow.
This is very hard sci-fi written by an engineer who knows this stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like my dad.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an enjoyable comic.
Well, let's see. What else do we have on our list of things here?
I like Order of the Stick.
Oh,
Oh, you're talking about your list.
I did some coloring on Order of the Stick one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, back when I was in high school, I did coloring for a few pages.
Huh.
It nothing too major, one or two, and then I kind of stopped. I was doing signatures on the forums there for quite a while, doing graphic design.
Yeah. I remember when those were like a big thing. I think I think I have a Quillweave avatar I made for that forum.
Really? Oh man, I've got so many like old avatars that I used to use for being in middle school, that type of thing. I got around on the old internet, man. That was my jam.
Oh God, I miss the old internet.
Well, people weren't nearly as mean, but I don't know. I don't even know what the benefit of the new internet is. I have no idea.
Well, it has people.
Yeah, it has people, but man, it's all anger and fear mongering at this point, and baiting. I don't know. It depends on how much you get on the internet and where you go, I suppose.
Yeah, some places are better than others.
No, I'm sure. You've been on. Do you still use regular forums instead of like Reddit and that type of thing?
I mean, I track conversations about my comic on some of them. I keep up with the webcomics thread on Something Awful.
You have
they do not like me.
I'm sure that. Well, you've got to think about the website in general that you're talking about. I'm sure they don't like anything. You have your own subreddit, don't you?
Kind of. It's pretty dead. I don't take care of it. I don't know if I have mod permissions there even. Someone else made it.
I was gonna say, you didn't make it, did you?
No, I don't actually know.
Is it actually pretty dead? Do people just not use the subreddit for prequel?
Well, people make like a post every week or so. I don't know. They'll post when there's an update usually.
That actually is pretty dead. That's pretty dead for subreddit standards. I'm sure you get more posts on 4chan.
I mean, I could probably like breathe life into it if I really wanted to, but I don't get Reddit.
I have to agree. I think we're just getting old.
At the risk of offending anyone listening to this, I think Reddit is like a forum but bad.
Yeah, I don't know, Kazerad. I think we might just getting old.
We might be.
We might just be. When Reddit came out, I didn't get Reddit. It's 10 years later, I still don't get Reddit.
There's this new thing. It's called like Amiibo, or is it?
No, the Amiibo is the thing for Nintendo Switch.
Oh my God, we sound like such old people.
We do. I have no idea.
No, I think it's like Amino. No.
Amino. Yeah, I know what Amino is.
I don't know what it is.
It's a phone app, isn't it?
I think.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. Amino app. It's it's like a phone app.
No, apparently I have a big community there. I don't know anything.
I've got this on my phone. I actually, I'm looking at the logo and I'm like, yeah, I have that on my phone. I don't doubt that you have a big community there. It's basically Tumblr 2.0.
Like
yeah, well, you know what I'm talking.
Before it killed itself?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay. Well.
It's basically Tumblr from my experience with it. I've used this thing a little bit, and it's basically like, I don't know how to describe it. I guess it's like Reddit, but with a lot more images, like far more images.
Like Tumblr.
Yeah, it's like Tumblr. I don't know. It's basically like Tumblr. It's not like Twitter for sure. And people just have whatever. I don't know. I'll have to look into the prequel thing for Amino.
Yeah, that's one of the new communities. I guess I have to learn this stuff eventually.
Yeah, I mean, you have a smartphone, right? What's wrong? You don't have a phone?
No, I just it's a newfangled thing. The aminos. don't know the aminos yet.
We're actually sounding old at this point to where.
Yeah, it took me long enough to get the Reddits down.
Oh, that's
just like learning how to navigate it.
I shouldn't have gotten on 4chan as a kid, should I? I should have just stayed away from the computer and got into football or something. Do you have anything that's like a big comics that were not webcomics, like manga, that type of thing, that you were a big fan of, that you think might have influenced you?
Not particularly, I don't think.
Really? Are you?
Yeah, like I've never been that big into comics, I think.
You were just so. I like this idea. I love this idea that you were basically just a scientist thrown into the world of comics, and then decided to try to find out how comics work through the scientific method.
Like I said, I was into the idea of a webcomic back in like high school.
Of course, but it's just I mean, that's apples and oranges with what you basically did. How you said that you got drunk when you first made the first prequel post, right?
Yeah.
Was that? Where did you post that?
That was on the Homestuck, or MS Paint Adventures Forum Adventures subforum.
So you got drunk and posted it on a forum, and then it really picked up from there. How many of those did you have to do before you actually got to your own domain?
To give context to this, I'd made some posts on there before, like little projects and stuff. I had done a few collabs and stuff. They'd gotten a little bigger each time, so it wasn't like out of the blue that I did something that kind of took off.
I feel like a bad interviewer now. I should have looked into your history.
No,
I actually didn't know that at all. Oh, I'm sure.
All the history wiped. It's awful.
It's something awful. Did you? So you had been working on projects on MS Paint Adventures for a while.
Yeah. Some, not like comics and stuff. I think the first one was, I guess, first big thing I got involved with was, you remember in Homestuck, like they were mailing the stuffed rabbit around and kept changing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started this thing with mailing a stuffed rabbit around.
Really?
I think they called it Hair Force 1.
Oh my! I wasn't aware.
Yeah, that was early in Homestuck. Early in the Homestuck community.
I'm trying to think. What year was that? That had to be 2000.
Probably 2009-ish.
Yeah, I wanted to say 2008, but I didn't know if it was that early. That's like 11 years ago at this point. That's ancient history as far as the internet's concerned. You realize that, right?
Yeah. But then there was, I had done a few like Homestuck joke comics there, like as a one-off thing. I made some ones kind of parodying like alien species playing Spurb.
As from somebody who's read Homestuck, that's actually pretty damn funny.
Actually, let me link you this so you can.
Do you have the old comic?
I have a web space where I dumped a lot of my stuff. I've been dumping stuff there since 5th grade. So if I remember the file name.
Oh, you basically just got like a really, really old time capsule Dropbox, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Do you have any like old drawings that you did as like a kid that you could like share with me so that I could put them in the interview? In the video, to show like where you were at one point and then what you've gotten to?
Yeah, give me a minute, I'll grab some stuff. Okay.
Yes. You sounded so disappointed. You were like, God damn it. All right.
This was like one of the first little Homestuck joke comics I made. This was sort of parodying the idea of people who just get really into the game.
Man, the weird part about it is it looks like your like art style, or were you using the same software at this time?
Yeah, because remember, at the time I was mostly doing game design.
Yeah, well, it's like your methodology for doing art hasn't changed that much.
At the time, I was a sprite artist right then. So, I wanted to make like this little joke about Homestuck in comic format. So I was using the sprite work tools. This was done in graphic scale.
Yeah. I figured that.
And I guess I've been using the same program since then. Not because it's good. Like, Photoshop is way better for the sort of stuff I do. I just don't know
sure.
Photoshop. I know my obscure Japanese sprite work program.
Of course. Well, I mean, Photoshop only takes, like... I don't know. Photoshop's one of those things where it's like, it only takes a week to learn, but that's a full week of your time.
Yeah, no,
Is everything that you make in GIFs? I'm noticing this. This has a GIF at the end of it.
I like them. I'm one of those people that insists it's GIF.
Yeah. Do you do that for the compression? Just look.
I like that it's. I like that it can animate. I like that it can animate and you can set the delays individually on frames. Like, this is a weird, nerdy thing to talk about, but
no, I understand exactly what you're doing from doing animation myself.
I mean, like, a lot of animation, you're deciding how many frames a panel lasts.
Yeah. But
with GIF format, you're deciding how many milliseconds each image displays for. It's a kind of backwards way, but I find it enjoyable.
I feel like that's where a lot of the comedy came from in that style of work, was deciding how many milliseconds it lasted and then putting it to an absurdly low number.
And that's not just low, it's this is something that comes up a lot in sprite work, more than like real animation.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing something like a run cycle, for instance, you don't want to have it play like at a constant frame rate. You want some things like the touchdown frames to last less time than the ones in the air.
Mm-hmm.
You can get like a really nice and jumpy feel from that.
How many games have you worked on at this point? You speak as somebody who's, like, overly experienced.
Not as many as a lot of people in my position would.
Well, I'm sure.
I don't know the exact number. Like, I have a lot of unfinished ones. I have stuff that was only got to prototype phase, so it could be put in a contest.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, you said you mostly did game jams. Did you ever release anything professionally,
not really game
or
jams.
work for?
It was the old TIG Source contests and a few larger prize ones.
Did you ever release anything professionally with a team?
No, I did not.
I'm supposing you're planning to do that in the future, right?
Maybe.
No.
I think I'll just keep posting stuff free online and then monetizing.
Man, like, I do not blame you. The internet can be sweet to you if you're just giving away things for free. Don't even make them have to worry about pirating.
I think it's more that I just like the format of it.
I can't.
Like, being able to post stuff as you make it.
Well, as somebody who has a YouTube channel, same thing for me. I just kind of post whatever I do. Every single one of my, 1-minute review things is me just sitting down, writing out a little bit of things on a notepad, and then just talking into a microphone. So, I don't know. I love doing things as I feel inspired and as things come to me.
But actually, anyway, the reason I brought up the little thing with the bugs was that actually I did a few of those, and people started world building for it.
Really?
Yes, they gave the characters names.
Oh, that's adorable.
They came up with the culture, and I embraced that. I tried to. Someone actually started a thread, I think, on the forums for compiling everything they came up with together.
I would be so happy as a creator for something like that.
No, it's fun. It's fun. That would
fill me with such joy. People care about this random world I created, that type of thing.
Yeah. Another collab thing I did. There was at some point, on the art sub forum of the MS Paint place, at the time, I had a lot of friends who were furries. I mean, now I
as we all did.
More. Yeah, now I probably have more, but at the time,
as we all do.
I didn't quite get it, so I started this thread. Shit, let's be furries. Where I said I was going to embrace the furry fandom and try to understand this. And I said, this is my persona I made. He's half every species.
I was gonna say, please tell me you just posted Katia or just anybody from Prequel. This is my persona. Here we go.
No, let me see.
Do you have a reference for your old persona?
Trying to find him. It was,
Oh,
I mean,
if
it was
you haven't-
obviously like a joke. I was mocking them, but
Yeah, but if you have him, I'd love to put him up on screen right now.
okay, hold on. I'm gonna have to delve onto my hard drive real quick.
Don't worry, like I said, I can edit all this out.
I don't edit anything good.
Well, there's Alright, well, I guess I'll just have to throw out everything.
Here we go.
Holy shit!
That better be full screen.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Love him.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
so I'm
But,
jealous.
you know, that
Why
was
can't my
a-
persona be like that? I'm gonna.
It was a joke thing, but you know, a lot of people got into it, making their own dumb personas.
No,
and, you know,
I like that he's given the middle finger on the left hand. It's just,
Yeah, I think my explanation was he doesn't know if he likes you yet, so he's giving you a thumbs up and flipping you off.
I like that his left eye looks like way more closed than his right. It's just, the guy's going nuts. I love him. How much would I have to pay you to make me a persona in the same style? I'd gladly pay for artwork of this magnitude.
I do not think I could create something this magnificent again.
I understand completely. The artist struggle. You do something once, you become famous, you kind of just, fade out from there. This is where you peaked. I understand.
But no, like seriously, it was mostly just fun with people getting involved with the community, and there were legit furries there too, and everyone was having fun. It was a fun collab project. But my point is, I did some. I
did some
had
fun
lots
things.
of fun. I made some things people could enjoy, so I was just kind of going further down that route when I did Prequel.
That's such a wholesome starting point. You realize that, right? That's the most like Disney wholesome DreamWorks starting point for a story. Just been doing this for a while, man, and I loved
great.
it.
I mean,
I loved it so much, and I was making people smile, and now I make my own webcomic. You could be a Disney Channel original series.
I think it was littler than that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's way more to it than that. Well, we've been talking for an hour. I'm sure we could go on and on and on, but maybe we should...
you have any other questions? I'm out.
No, not on me right now. Not in particular. Like I said, I didn't go and do the questions from your audience type thing.
Yeah.
So I don't have all the obvious romance questions of, are these people going to have sex type thing.
If you can go get questions and then.
Oh yeah, of course.
Later,
I'll put them in the description. That'll be the shittiest thing. Can you imagine? But no, I don't have anything else. I just thank you for talking to me, man. Thanks for doing the interview. This was a lot of fun.
It's no problem.
I'd love to do this again if I actually do grab a whole bunch of questions and then just come back and we'll do a part 2 or something and see what people have to... What terrible things people have to ask you about your works. Do you have anything that you want to plug or anything you want to say to your audience before we end this?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, this has been the I'll Discuss Anything... well, I almost said the podcast. I always say the podcast thing. This has been I'll Discuss Anything interview. I'm Patrick. This is Kazerad. And thank you so much for being here with me, man.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. And we'll see you guys later.